good evening from wherever you are connected from. Um, Today, we are talking a pretty interesting topic on divestiture. In fact, we all know, especially during uncertain times and challenging economic conditions, most organizations are looking at divestiture as a way to salvage the value and even raise capital. In fact, many companies are shedding their non-core businesses and even their assets so that they can focus on investing their time, money, and energy in the core business offerings so that they are in a position to maximize their overall portfolio value. At the end of the day, we all know it's all about giving the necessary return on investment to all the stakeholders. In fact, there were a lot of reports that has been published, especially around 2022 divestitures. The report says the divestiture transactions volume increased significantly in 2022 when compared to the previous years. In fact, analysts are even mentioning that there is going to be more shift towards disposals, and the corporate parents are focusing on their core operations, which means in 2023 and 2024, most of these analysts are even predicting that there are going to be more divestitures coming on the way. Some divestitures, as I mentioned, are also happening because they want to raise capital for the investment in further growing in their core area. Despite the challenges of rising interest rate, higher inflation, and we all know pandemic, acquisition and divestiture activity increasing significantly in 2022. And in fact, most of these, almost two-thirds of these deals are being done by strategic buyers. So these are some critical points which we all need to observe to understand the trend in the divestiture and mergers and acquisition market. Having said that, there are three most common scenarios which one can think of in divestiture. One is a sell-off, wherein there is they actually sell one or more business areas or units to another company. Such a situation is called sell-off. Spin-off is a company is diverts into multiple units. You're just sort of breaking down a company into multiple units. And then split off is an option in which you're breaking a company into separate company. Having said that, the divestiture transactions can actually be classified broadly into three major categories. The carve-out sale to a strategic buyer, wherein in this situation, the new buyer are usually from the same industry as that of the seller, which means especially from the ERP point, it will be pretty easy because they are from the same industry, almost in the similar type of operations. So they are actually buying to either get a vertical or a horizontal expansion and also plan for synergies. In fact, the strategic buyers usually absorb the carved out business into their own IT system. Say, for example, they are using an SAP system or an Oracle system. They try to carve out the business into their own IT system so that their synergy benefits can be effectively captured. In this case, if you really look at it, if it is a carve-out sale to a strategic buyer, a formal ERP CRM strategy or separation strategy is really not required, but you just really focus more on the data side alone. The second aspect, buyer, financial buyers, okay, typically think people like the private equity firms or the investors, they want to reduce their cost or they want to generate positive cash flow with the carved out business. They go and buy some of these companies. This is the type of firm typically they will actually not observe the carved out business they will typically not observe the carved out business into their existing IT environment. Instead, the carved out company will need to develop a standalone ERP strategy on their own. Okay, it could be continuing what the parent organization had, or have a separate strategy for them. The third option is the IP This also happened significantly in many, especially North America in 2022. In the actually publicly traded company, the majority of such transactions are actually centered around to bring things like tax-free spin-off, so that the parent company can retain the minority shares of the new company, but the spin-off company actually need to have a sort of they need to develop and have operational and financial independence right on day one, so that they are able to satisfy the tax rules. So if you really look at it, ERP transformation, the CRM transformation typically occurs in the second and the third cases. The second case of where you're carving out the sale to a financial buyer, and for the IPO separations. But whatever the motive could be, a carve out is one of the most complex tasks for any company. There are a lot of organizations, there are a lot of procedural changes that need to be taken care of. If you're really looking at removing a company part from an existing company, it is also challenging from the technological point of view. I saw the profile of many of the participants in today's webinar. Thank you all for registering for the webinar. I know most of you are from a mix of both technical and business areas. So obviously you will all appreciate the fact that there are several key tasks that are associated when you're trying to transfer the IT structure, when you're trying to move the data and the systems, and at the same time, operating within the legal requirement. As I told you, even right from day one, the new company may have to operate with all the financial and operational independence. Having said that, divestiture, in fact, I look at it, I see, every dark cloud has a silver lining, right? I look at divestiture, in fact, as an opportunity, excellent opportunity for both for the buyers and for the management team, so that they can actually execute business transformations. They can improve their critical functional improvements. They can even bring some wholesale changes to the way the organization is structured and the way it has been operating. The technological landscape, in fact, is an essential part of that process. The ERP and CRM applications are the most critical aspect of our technology infrastructure. And that obviously requires quite a good amount of focus and attention during the overall carve-out process. In fact, with long associated lead times, I'm just quoting what one of the analysts had mentioned. I'm just reading it out from their quote. With long associated lead times and numerous interdependencies, ERP and CRM separations require earlier attention and informed decisions for a seamless data transfer. In fact, this is a quote from an analyst. Let me reiterate, there are complex situations. It's an associated lead time, which is long. There are numerous interdependencies that requires early attention and informed decisions. So the separation of ERP and CRM applications plays a significant role in the success of the divestiture process. Thanks to Oracle Corporation, I just took this image from one of their blog. If we are looking at the financial carve-out transaction, in fact, the seller is in fact responsible for implementing the logical separation, while the buyer is actually expected to focus on achieving the exit. In fact, they get into a contract, so there's a very clear demarcation on who is even responsible for separating the ERP systems and the CRM systems. In addition to the logical separation, planning, execution, in fact, the CIOs, the CTOs, the IT heads and the business heads of both the organizations will really need to continue to provide the oversight and guidance for the buyer's ERP implementation progress. In fact, in many countries, there are specific requirements, especially around the way the ERP and CRM systems are separated. And there are even a lot of clauses, statutory clauses that mentions the need to provide oversight and guidance for the buyer's ERP implementation, so that the buyer can actually exit from the parent company as agreed. So that actually involves significant implementation of different controlling area, financial reporting for the parent company and for the carved out business. So in Divestiture, one really need to develop a robust ERP and CRM separation strategy and plan. So there could be different options that are available. It includes choosing one of these separation options. That actually there are various factors based on which these separation options are available. It is typically based on the separation cost that is associated, the timeline that is involved, the complexity of the business processes, and in fact the overall IT strategic roadmap. Okay, it also depends on the type of applications the buying company already has. As I told earlier, it also depends whether they want to induct the company into their existing IT systems or they will probably wanted to go in for a new one. So there are basically three typical common approaches which we have seen in the market. The first option is a clone and delete option, wherein the existing ERP platform is actually cloned for the spin-off, and then the parent company data is deleted from it. The other option is transform while transact, okay, wherein they are migrating the ERP platform to a cloud or a SaaS version of the existing application. Then third option, which we are also seeing in quite few customers, is a new platform migration, wherein they are migrating their ERP and CRM platforms to a new fit for purpose, fit so that it actually fits their actual requirement. It's called trying to implement a new fit for purpose software solution. So whatever be the approach, once the ERP separation approach is decided, the next logical step is to consider the implementing process, the strategies, the technologies for risk mitigation. So obviously, there are some key considerations that one need to keep in mind. And some of these, again, not in the necessary order, but these are the key considerations which one need to keep in mind. The first one is the infrastructure. Okay, ideally, most of what we have seen in the recent trend is that they are trying to move away from the existing on-prem infrastructures onto a cloud infrastructure. In fact, one of the key questions which every company is asking themselves is how can they leverage a cloud provider or even a hyperscaler to implement cloud infrastructure? Because as I told you, sometimes in the divestiture, one of the key considerations is that the time available for moving into a new organization is going to be pretty limited. So that if you are looking at a cloud infrastructure, that will enable them for a faster infrastructure setup lead time, because we all know the traditional data center approach is going to take much more time. The second key consideration is the data separation. In fact, I'll talk a lot about that and how we, as an end-to-end data management company, we from ChainSys can help you in your data separation activities. In fact, in data separation, we need to identify what I call as a commingled data, the data which is commingled between the parent company and the spin-off, and then have a proper approach for data sharing and separation. We'll talk a little more about it in the following slides. The third aspect, which many of our customers quoted, is the talent retention. How am I identifying some of the IT personnel who are in both the parent and the spin-off organization and retain them? What should be my retention strategy? Because it's not just about the spin-off activity, but on an ongoing basis. In fact, there are different industries which also have a lot of statutory requirements on how the data is being stored and how these are leveraged for various financial reporting. So the talent retention is yet another strategy. The fourth aspect is about vendor selection. Yes, there could be a lot more vendors, a lot more service providers, and people who are available on a regular basis for the organization. But one key thing, especially with the way this has to be done on literally within few weeks to maximum couple of months of transition. They need to develop an accelerated vendor selection process. They need to identify and onboard a third-party partner for all these separation activities. Ideally, somebody who has some of the latest, tools and accelerators, some of the smarter way of helping them to do the data separation and the overall instant migration. Then comes the contract separation. Obviously, that's something that has to be dealt with the OEMs, the product vendors, and negotiate and ensure that there are proper ERP contracts and CRM contracts in place, and there is a proper transfer of any excess licenses either to the spin-off company or to the parent company. Having said that, this is something which is of interest for all of us. When it comes to data separation perspective, we really need to consider some of the key aspects here. We need to identify, as I mentioned, the commingled data between the parent company and the spin-off company, and really need to define an approach on how my data is going to be shared or how it's going to be separated. In fact, we also need to have a clear understanding on what data need to be going to or with the buyer organization. There might also be a lot of considerations for the financial and auditing requirements. And this may also vary from country to country, especially when you're working on a multi-country environment. These considerations do play a critical role. In addition to that, especially when you're going to move data, even whether it's from on-prem to cloud or from one company to another company, we need to have a proper data archival and purging strategy. The question is, will my tool help you? Will the tool which we are selecting or the approaches which we are selecting, will it help us to achieve the data archival and the purging strategies? Because these are typically where the IT don't govern business operations from the statutory and regulatory perspective that need to be kept in mind. In addition to that, the data is a new piece of asset which every organization has. So the question is, we need to have considerations from various regulations like various. We, as an end-to-end data company, here are some of our perspectives. In fact, Oracle themselves in one of their white paper had mentioned that businesses spending quite a significant amount of dollars in migrating data from various different applications. But yet, about 75% of all these systems fail to meet expectations, especially in situations like Divestiture when we are talking about, because this is validated for the intended task. This is not the quote from our side. This is in fact Oracle's white paper. So much of data challenges when trying to migrate, when they are trying to spin off. But the business expectations are much different. They really wanted all the data to be assessed in the quality of the data to be assessed right in the source system. They really want the data to be cleansed even before it is migrated or spun off into a new system. But at the same time, they wanted to do a lot of data transformations in this process. Because as I did mention earlier, it's also an opportunity, especially Divestiture is an opportunity where we can even bring in a lot of transformation in the business processes. And at the same time, or a seamless data integration. And the data should be there should be proper data governance established so that on an ongoing basis, how am I going to onboard data loading? Going to take care of any future transactions in my new system, a trail, so that I have a clear visibility on how the data has been moving from the parent organization to the new spun-off organization. In addition to that, I obviously want to have a proper reconciliation, and I also need to develop proper reporting, proper insights from the data that we have in the target system. These are some of our perspectives based on our work in the past several years with our customers and based on what we have been seeing as a trend in the industry. With that said, ChainSys Corporation is an end-to-end data management company. We are a 24-year-old company with a global headquarters in Lansing, Michigan. We are present globally, and we have over 1,200 plus professionals across the globe. We have various credentials, be it on the CMMI level or on the ISO or on the SOC certification. And more important, we have very strong partnership with the OEMs like the SAPs and Oracles and Salesforces and Microsofts of the world. Let me give you a sneak preview of what we offer to our customers using our platforms. We offer various products that will satisfy the data and the business needs of our customers. We are offering them in two major platforms called the Smart Data Platform and the Smart Business Platform. Each platform has got different products, and each product also serves specific purposes. But one important thing I really wanted to mention here is that even though we are offering so many features in each and every product, you as a customer can actually choose the requirement, choose the features which you really want based on your use cases. You don't necessarily need to buy everything, but based on your requirement, you can actually pick and choose like an a la carte menu in a restaurant. On Smart Data Platform, we have three major products called Data Zap, Data Zen, and Data Sense. Anything to do with the movement. In fact, especially in the Divestiture environment, Data Zap plays a very critical role. It helps you in data migration, setup migration, test data preparation, archival, big data ingestion, reconciliation, loading the data, integration. These are all taken care of by Data Zap. We believe in the principle of get clean and stay clean. I will talk a bit more about how we really load the data in a cleansed format, but we also believe in an ongoing data quality. We have a very powerful data quality management engine as part of our Data Zen product, in addition to our own MDM product. It's a multi-domain MDM product which we have in Data Zen. And I did mention about the security concerns. I did mention about the compliance requirements, especially in the divestiture type of environment. That's where Data Zen comes into picture. It has some great capabilities around data security, masking of PII data, profiling, compliance to various statutory requirements like GDPRs and CCPAs of the world. And we also offer some great cataloging and analytics capabilities as part of Data Sense. One thing, in fact, some of our customers really leverage the power of the analytics and visualization in Data Sense because they really wanted to take live insights presented in a proper format for the suite and for everybody who is actually leveraging the platform. The second platform which we have is a Smart Business Platform, and sometimes I call that also as a Smart Digital Platform. The first product is a Smart Bots, which is an RPA-based business process automation and a test automation tool. So especially in Divestiture, when you have very little time to do all those instant carve out and move the data to the target system or spin off from your existing enterprise applications, we really need to do pretty aggressive, or your testing should really be pretty fast. And that is where we have the Smart Bots, which has actually got the bots capabilities for most of the standard applications and for the standard processes that are available in the market. Then we also know the ERP and the CRM applications that we have may not fulfill all the business needs of an organization, especially when you're getting spun off and moving into a new organization. You may really want to develop few more extensions, a few more applications on top of these enterprise applications. The Smart App Builder is a rapid application development framework which we have, over which you can go ahead. You can go ahead and build those additional capabilities. One important thing I really wanted to mention here is that our entire platform is being built with the design principle of no programming or low coding, which means you really don't need to know some of those complex scripting languages and programming languages if you want to leverage the tool. Even an end user, even an end business user can use the product with all these drag and drop features and functional components, visual workflows, and things like that. The products are all certified by like the likes of OEMs, which means you don't need to worry about it from the compatibility and the associated aspects when you want to start using the product. I did mention ours is a low code product, low code platform, be it for data extraction or for data reconciliation or for your data loading. It's all a complete no code approach. The product operates in about four levels: the foundation level, the application engine that helps you in your data extraction, loading, and reconciliation. Then we have also built something called the smart data adapters. These are some ready to use templates, ready to use adapters for various different functions of all the standard applications. I've just mentioned few of the applications in this slide. And we have also done a lot of those standard mappings that can be leveraged. So if you're probably, if you consider that as a 100-meter race, because it's already in a shrunk time period if you want to divestiture. So you're probably starting the race in about 50 to 60 meters. So that will help you to accelerate your overall, IT system divestiture. Having said that, we have built the connectors for over 200 plus applications. So as long as any of your existing applications and your systems fall within any of these capabilities, any of these databases, or if they are belonging to any of these enterprise applications or cloud applications, or even the NoSQL databases or the big data lakes, we'll be in a position to connect them to the ChainSys Smart Data Platform or to the Smart Business Platform and help you in a better transformation. So this is our overall approach for divestiture. Obviously, it can be any different type of systems. It need not only be Oracles and SAPs and Salesforces and Microsofts of the world. As I mentioned, if it is, as long as it's fit into any of those 200 plus, which I showed in the previous slide, we can actually acquire the data from those systems before we start the divestiture. So what we typically do is, we all know it is all based on either your legal entities or your chart of accounts or your operating unit or your ledgers or inventory or organizations. The business logic logic is actually extracted from these systems. This then undergoes something called the data conversion process. We start with the setup conversions. We then go ahead with the master objects, master data objects. Then we will get into the transaction objects. We will look into the custom objects. Obviously, there will be some amount of customizations. We then do the automated testing, leveraging our smart bots, and then help the customer in the data archival, because I did mention about the importance of archival in various stages, correct? So what really happens are these typical activities which I mentioned on the right side here. When it comes to the data transformations, the data transformation includes various different activities. It looks into some of those cross references. It takes care of all the lookups and the defaults which are associated with the data. Then it undergoes quite a good amount of validations and cleansing. What we call as cleansing is all those pre-validation. A data pre-validation is nothing but it's a process by which any inconsistent data, erroneous data, incomplete, incompatible data are all flagged even before the data is actually migrated. The data validations are usually performed prior to the data loading, and it actually it is more like a secondary checkpoint, because in this process we are trying to filter out the bad data, and you can take a decision to correct it or purge it based on some of these criteria. In fact, we do all those business validations and the corrections in this particular stage itself. In fact, we have some pretty interesting data zap as part of our product. It has The pre-validation checks for various functional dependencies and missing data and setups. They actually, what it does is, like all, as I mentioned, it does all these check of the tables, be it in the SAP applications or in the Oracle applications or whatever applications. And it also does a lot of the technical checks, like, what type of constraints, the data types, the null checks, the length, the format mask for date and time, duplicates, correct currency rounding, text cases. These are some of the corrections which actually, all these checks are actually made at this stage. The benefit of this flagging is that these issues is that before even you load the data into your target application, you can actually do that validation. And that's where I did mention about our pre-built templates, right? The datasets pre-built template has all these pre-validation for loading them into the standard Oracle, standard ERP or CRM application. In addition to that, as an organization, you can configure additional pre-validation rules, because I know one size doesn't fit everybody. Every business needs are different. So you will be in a position to configure additional pre-validation rules. And you can also appreciate the fact that, the manual pre-validation approach is literally difficult. It is pretty cumbersome. It is not reliable. And oftentimes it undergoes multiple iterations. And remember, we are talking about a divestiture type of an environment where this has to be done pretty fast, because the overall transformation time itself is going to be in terms of few weeks to probably a couple of few months. So obviously, we need to really have those smarter approaches of doing those validations. Having said that, we all know what data reconciliation is all about. We all know that we need to have some simple mechanism for data reconciliation, right? So instead of using traditional approaches, at least, in many of my past role, I have used traditionally Excel spreadsheets. And obviously, oftentimes these are all unreliable. And especially when we try to present it to the senior management, it's generally looked at it with skepticism, because Excel, you can really go and change anything. So having said that, I really want to have a reconciliation function that is easy for me to deploy, that is simple to use, and also have the ability to make all those corrections. I need to have some pretty interesting way of making it easy for even for people to take the correction reports. So that is where all our preload reconciliation or reconciliation comes into picture. In fact, the reconciliation reports really need to be presented in the form of dashboards, not as Excel sheets, so that it facilitates the validation process. It also enables the business users to review and approve the data, so that your overall migration is expedited. And at the same time, it is also easy for the people who are auditing to make use of it, because if you're presenting it in a dashboard format, it's more reliable. The statutory auditors and everybody will actually look at it in a much more authentic way. So what we really do is, we actually do multiple level of reconciliation. As you see in the slide, I did talk about the preload reconciliation that compares the data between the source system and the transformed data, so that we confirm that the right transformations have been applied in the preload reconciliation stage. In contrast, a post-load reconciliation, after the data is loaded into the target system, what happens is, once a preload reconciliation is happening, it then gets approved. Okay, that's where the business team approves, or whoever is a owner of the data stewards, they approve the data, and then it gets loaded into the target system. Here again, the pre-built load adapters from our ChainSys smart data platform can be leveraged, so that your loading is also done in a smarter way. And the post-load reconciliation, what it does is, it actually compares the data between the transformed data and the data that is loaded in the target system, so that we are just going to ensure that there is an accuracy in that. If you really look at it, We do data reconciliation in multiple dimensions of reconciliation. Okay, whether be it in the post load or in the preload, we actually do it into two broad categories. One is called the technical reconciliation, wherein we do a field to field comparisons. Then comes we do something called the functional reconciliation, wherein we compare the fields at various business dimension levels. It could be the currency amount. It could be if you're talking about inventory, we talk about in terms of the quantity and so on and so forth. So this is a very powerful tool. It is not just a simple ETL tool, but an ETL tool for the ERP and CRM and for business functions. That is where there's a whole lot of innovation and investments that have gone into in terms of building those pre-built adapters and templates. So it's really a smarter way. The manual intervention is literally minimal when compared to the traditional approach of doing these transformations or reconciliations or approvals or loading, because of all the templates and the adapters that we have actually built in. So there are a couple of, but in the interest of time, I'll just touch upon just a couple of interesting case studies. This is a case study of a high-tech giant. This was a divestiture scenario of bringing them from, they were on an Oracle EBS R12 instance, the parent company, and then we helped them to divestiture into two different instances, the EBS R12 parent company, wherein they had 12 inventory arcs for one of the division, and then we helped them to divestiture and create another EBS R12 instance. Yet another case study is that of a leading pharmaceutical company. They were into multiple areas: scientific instrumentation, reagents, consumable, and software services. They divested their cancer diagnostics company using the smart data platform, using our smart data approach. We help them to migrate more than 46 objects on various functionalities like your materials management, finance and controlling, production planning, sales and distribution, quality management, warehouse management, and so on and so forth. As I told you, this is the approach which we just followed for for all the organizations. We have done several of divestitures and mergers and acquisition type of projects, and the approach which we use is pretty simple, very easy for people to use, but at the same time ensuring the highest level of quality, ensuring it takes the bare minimum time, and you don't reinvent the wheel. You try to do it in a smarter way, leveraging these templates, the adapters which we have built. Moving on, we all know when we are trying to remodel an enterprise structure that requires divesting the entities and the data, I really need something that will help me to accelerate. And that is where we come into picture. We help you with our ready to migrate setup data, ready to consolidate, ready to transform, ready to enrich your data, ready to migrate your master data, ready to migrate your transactional and historical data. In addition to that, we help you with our ready to use templates to reconcile the data and validate the data. It's more like a shift left type of an approach rather than doing it in a manual approach. We are looking at it as a tool-based data movement approach. We validate the data even before you load on to the target application. In fact, you can take an analogy from the single minute exchange of dies concept, which is prescribed in the total quality management of manufacturing industry. So just a sort of a recap on how we typically do our enterprise data management. ChainSys smart data approach, it has all these components, and these are very much relevant when it comes to a divestiture type of environment. We acquire the data, we profile it, we then ensure that the quality of the data is to the highest level. We then get the data approved. We do a preload reconciliation and then archive the data that need to get on to a different system. because I don't want to archive a junk data. Even archival, we do it only after the data is approved, after the data is enriched, after the data is cleansed, after the data is validated and transformed. And then I've given an example of Oracle Cloud here, but the same concept applies to any target system or to any source systems. And these are, as I mentioned, these are SAP and Oracle certified platforms too. And this is what some of the benefits, okay, some of the benefits which you get. It actually saves about 30% of overall project time. If you recollect my slide on the data challenges, it actually helps you to address most of those data challenges which has been given because of the smarter way of doing your data migration right from the assessment stage to the post-load reconciliation. As I mentioned, it's a low-code platform, so it's very easy to use. Significant change savings of your business people time, because as you know, especially in a divestiture type of environment, the business is going to be super busy on their day-to-day job because they are also expected to meet several other requirements, not just helping the IT team to transform. So that is where a smarter approach is going to help you, but at the same time, helping you to maintain the highest level of data quality. So, a quick checklist. Are we solving various data management needs in Divestiture using the ChainSys Smart Data Platform and the Smart Business Platform? These are some of the questions which our customers ask us. And the answer obviously to these questions is yes. We can help you to extract the data from multiple sources without programming, without scripts writing. We can profile the data right at the source. We can cleanse, validate the data from source, help you to get clean. We can also help you to stay clean on an ongoing basis. We have an automated approach for data enrichment, data construction. Wherever required, you can also add some manual activities if required. Wonderful visualization and reporting capabilities. We have, we are able to load both transactional and historical data. We have a tool that supports your ongoing data quality, which is stay clean or keep it clean. We can also help you in your ongoing data governance using our master data management product. And it also takes care of all the statutory requirements, the security requirements, security and compliance requirements through our ChainSys Smart Data Platform. With that said, I really thank you all for taking your time and your valuable time on this day to attend our webinar. With that, I transfer it back to Caroline. Maybe Caroline, we can answer probably another 2 or 3 questions at this point of time.
Sure, Satish. Thank you so much. That was very thought-provoking, especially when we are in a divestiture and you would want to consider how we should approach the data separation process for your ERP and CRM. All right, I have a couple of questions over here. Satish, can you please provide little more details about carve-out, like the steps involved in it, etc.?
Okay, that's a great question. I did mention about carve-out in one of the earlier slides. Let me take a very simple example. Let's assume I want to carve out my SAP instance, okay, or an Oracle instance. So first, when it comes to carve out, typically we have seen we create a one-off copy of the production database to work on so that I don't disrupt the businesses, because the business need to go on as usual. I cannot really interrupt any of the current transactions that are happening. Once I do that, I then form a team of functional experts and technical experts, typically the ones who support the ERP and the CRM systems. I really leverage them to find all the database records that are going to be affected by divestiture. There again, we from ChainSys, we come with a lot of institutional knowledge, because having handled several divestiture projects, we'll be in a position, especially for all the standard applications, we have ready to use templates and we have some ready to use, readily available knowledge that will tell you what database records will be affected in a divestiture scenario. This is the phase where you can actually leverage our ChainSys Smart Data Platform, and it right on day one, it can be put into action. We can do the assessment pretty quickly leveraging our smart data platform. And right from the assessment stage, I think I just mentioned it in one of the earlier slides, right from the assessment stage till the time it is loaded, this ChainSys smart data platform along with smart bots can actually help you. So once the team has been used and the process is finalized, you can leverage our smart bots to do the testing. And then obviously the new database for the divested business entity can be migrated, and you can actually start leveraging it right from day one of go live. So again, it's more of an accelerated process, unlike the traditional approach of carve out. And I think I just mentioned that in one of the earlier slide, and I'll be happy to discuss. Whoever asked this question, we'll be happy to connect with you and even show a demo and show you the process in action.
Great. Uh, what is the maximum data size you have experienced in carving out the data and time taken?
Wow, it's a great question. Our teams have handled several terabytes of data across the organization. If you're into the technology space, several terabytes of data we have handled. So data volume is never a constraint for smart data platform. And for our people, we have handled several complex. We are talking of scenarios of one divestiture. There are even instances where there was a combination of divestiture and an acquisition. There was a couple of divestitures. All those situations are also handled pretty seamlessly, leveraging our smart data platform.
Can you please talk a bit?
Next question, Caroline.
Yes, Satish. Can you please talk a bit more on the data extraction adapters that you had mentioned earlier?
Okay. Um, as I told you, data extraction is nothing but just a very simple concept of getting the data out of your source system, right? So obviously that your data extraction requires very good analysis of all the applications that is involved, because we all know it is not just going to be one standalone instances. I know, separate OEMs will be giving adapters for example, Oracle will be giving Oracle adapters, maybe, or SAP may have some SAP adapters. But in reality, we know that there are various applications that are going to be involved. Okay, so we need to know how those are interrelated to each other. Okay, and what we do as part of the extraction is that the pre-built, predefined extraction adapters, I also call it as data objects. It helps you to extract the master data, your transactional data, the setup data, and the metadata from the applications, which obviously expedites your overall extraction processes. And it actually reduces the reliance on developing any of the custom codes, or the codes that you need, or write complex programs to extract the data from the source system. In fact, our extract adapters, which I mentioned, it actually support multiple different types of connections. It could be your REST or SOAP or JDBC, or it can actually extract data from various different types of databases, even from flat files, Excel files, BAPI, OData, and also from big data sources. And we are also extracting, in one of the case, we were also extracting data from some of the equipment, some of the sensors, and some of those type of applications equipments also. So this is nothing but it's a pre-built, predefined adapters for most of the commonly used data objects from various applications.
We will just take one last question, Satish, with the interest of time.
Okay.
How different is ChainSys as compared to other competitors in the market?
Well, there are a lot of, maybe you can just look into this particular slide that will answer the question. Okay, number one, we are probably one of the we are probably, I would say, for all the enterprise applications, your ERP and CRM application, we are probably a one-stop shop for your end-to-end data management needs. Okay, and ours is a low-code, no programming platform that's very easy to use. That's number one. Number two, While we offer the varied capabilities, we also offer flexibility to clients based on their needs. You can pick and choose. It's an a la carte type of application, so you can pick and choose. And pricing obviously is in a flexible model. We offer both on-prem and on cloud, depending on the client needs. And we also offer many of these data management as a service to our clients. So that's again another point. And in addition to that, again, our platform is catering to most of the type of enterprise applications that are available in the market. So in that's the way analysts have started rating us in a much better position today. And we are just waiting for serving as many customers as possible, because some great innovation, great engineering work has gone into this in the past several decades, in the couple of decades. So we really wanted to see how we can go and serve as many customers across the globe as possible. So I really invite each one of them who are participating, each one of you who have participated in today's webinar, to try our applications. You can write to us, you can visit our website, you can ask for a discovery call. We'll also be happy to do POCs for you, proof of concepts, based on your use cases. And we really invite you to try the power of ChainSys to help you in all your data management needs. With that, I really appreciate each one of you taking your time. Thank you, Caroline, for being a great host for today's call. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Satish. Thank you all for joining, and we appreciate you taking your time and being here. One announcement: our next webinar is on Thursday, February 9th, on the topic Kickstart Your Oracle EBS R12.2.x upgrade with ChainSys Smart Data Platform. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Thank you once again for joining, and have a great rest of the day.